Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm in Hawaii right now, on the island of Kauai specifically, and I'll share a little bit more about why I'm here in a little bit. This video is going to be a little bit different from our normal content, but bear with me and I will share some information that has been going on behind the scenes for the last couple years. So let's do stuff.
I'm Tara. That's Lucas. We're on a quest for new adventures and great food. Come along with us as we explore our incredible world.
Alright, hiking Sleeping Giant from the east trailhead. It's roughly 4.5 miles out and back, and I believe it was roughly 950 feet of elevation gain. Should be a spectacular view from the top when we get there. But it is raining, and I was advised at the trailhead by some people who were finishing that it's pretty muddy, it's slippery, so we're gonna take caution, be cautious and careful. But so far, very beautiful. Well, it's an awful lot of climbing right at the beginning. It's just all up, up, up. Whew. All right, so why am I in Kauai? On Kauai? In Hawaii? Whatever. Why am I here? Well, let's go back in time a bit, shall we? I don't think many of you know, I was adopted, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I'm so thankful every day, extremely grateful, because my story could have been much different. I was fortunate enough to have a wonderful childhood, and that is thanks to my adopted parents, Penny and Jim, who you've seen in several of our videos. And this story of why I'm here is because of them. So when they got married, I think it was 86, 87, they came to this island on their honeymoon and absolutely fell in love with it. I think it's pretty safe to say this is their favorite place on planet Earth. So over the years, they would travel here, almost exclusively here. You know, they went other places too, here and there, but I think the vast majority of their trips were here to Kauai. And so, I think it was around 2018 or 2019, when they had both retired, they informed my brother and I that they were coming out here for 6 months, which we thought was a great idea. They're gonna rent their house out in California and come spend 6 months in their favorite place. Fast forward 6 months, and they invited us out to join them for a week. That was February 2020. Little did we know what was about to happen a month later. And yeah, COVID was kind of spreading in Asia at the time. We just were in the blissful ignorance at that time. And I'm so thankful for that trip. We got to spend we had such good memories on that trip. But it was towards the end of that trip that they sat us down for dinner and said, we're buying a house, we're moving here. Which in retrospect shouldn't have been much of a surprise. But it took me by surprise. Let's do a little hiking. the roosters. I don't know if you can hear them in the background. The chickens are an ever-present thing here on this island. I believe the story I heard was Hurricane Iniki. I think it was 1993, I think. The chickens got loose, and they've been loose ever since, populating in the wild, so to speak. And yeah, it's quite an adjustment when you get here and you're trying to sleep, and they start doing the cock-a-doodle-doo thing. Yeah, sometimes about 3, 4 in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes just whenever they want. Like today, right now, sitting here, I can just hear them everywhere. It's 3 in the afternoon, so. The chickens. So anyways, back to our story. Where were we? Yeah, so my parents just moved here. And yeah. So that was about 2020. And in retrospect, what a place for them to wait out COVID here on this island where they barely had cases for a long time. I gotta watch my step here. It's a little treacherous. And if you do go on this hike, remember, lots of water. Brought 1.5 liters. I'm thinking that's hopefully gonna be plenty, but it's so humid. You're just sweating nonstop, as you can tell. So yeah, they were here enjoying their time, and I guess it was about 2 years ago now that I got a call from my dad saying that he'd been diagnosed with a respiratory condition called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, IPF for short. And in his very typical fashion of not stressing anybody out about him, he just kind of played it off like it was no big deal. So I was just like, okay, I guess, thanks for letting me know. And then my mom called me the next day to see how I was handling the news. And I was like, fine. I mean, is it a big deal? And she said, yes, it's a very big deal. It's a terminal illness. And I went, oh, well, he didn't say that. He didn't want me to worry about him. So, IPF, it's a progressive fibrosis, so scarring effectively of the lung tissue. There is no effective treatment to reverse it. There is no cure. The only thing you can do is there's some medication that for some people could slow down the fibrosis of the lung tissue. And you'll remember our Big Island trip last year, which was, I don't know, maybe a year after his diagnosis. And he was coughing real bad and really struggling to breathe from time to time. But he'd flare up, and then it would get, more bearable, more tolerable. And for stretches at a time, he seemed okay. And he wasn't on oxygen yet, but a little while after that, he would go on supplemental oxygen. And I guess naively I thought, this disease comes with a average lifespan of 3 to 5 years after diagnosis, and sometimes more than that. And he's 64, fairly young for being diagnosed with this. I guess we thought that he'd have plenty of time. I'm gonna pick you up in a minute. Lots of climbing here. And this section, whew, it's a bit steep. Here we go. What an absurdly beautiful place. I've had some pretty gnarly brain fog over the last week and a half, so if I lose my place in the story, just forgive me, huh? Now, outside of the medication, which only works for some people, the only other treatment would be potentially a lung transplant, which could buy him another maybe 10 years. And that's what we've been aiming for, is a lung transplant. So we've been hopeful and optimistic throughout this whole process. So fast forward about 1.5 to 2 years from diagnosis, and get a call from Mom about 2 weeks ago saying that Dad really wasn't doing very well, and that he wasn't really able to get up from the couch, and that was disturbing. Became very concerned at that point. Things got worse, and they went to the ER. They admitted him, and pretty quickly after that, maybe another day or so, they moved him from a regular room to ICU. And after he got worse again, they had to put him on a ventilator. At this time, there was some suspicion, at least we were hoping, that maybe he just had pneumonia, which, with hopefully a course of antibiotics, would improve, and perhaps he'd be able to be weaned off the ventilator and maybe go home. And then he seemed to get a little worse, so my brother and I got on a plane and we flew out here, you know, to help Mom, to be here for them. As the days went on, they lowered his oxygen on the ventilator, and the hope was that we'd be able to wake him up, get him off the ventilator if he continued to improve. And for 2 days he kind of did improve. But we got a call, I think it was the 3rd day that we were here, from the hospital saying, when you get here, let the nurses know, we'll give you an update on his condition. And unfortunately, he had deteriorated quite severely in the night, and the option of medevacing for a lung transplant is pretty much out the window, and there wasn't really any hope that he was going to improve. The scan that they did of his lungs had shown a dramatic progression of the fibrosis, and we were basically out of options at that point. We had a very difficult conversation as a family, and it was like, if there's anything, any chance that he could live a decent quality of life, of course we have to do anything and everything we can to make that happen. But based on all of the information we were receiving from his medical team, there just wasn't any options anymore. So we made the tragic decision to remove the ventilator, and on Wednesday we did that. Thank goodness he passed fairly quickly after that. Look at this view. I like to hope and believe that he's getting to appreciate this island forever, or wherever he wants to be. But he's no longer with us. And I know that he had such a strong belief system that he was not afraid of dying. He would always say, absent from the body, present with the Lord. He said that, I mean, probably my entire life. And even 10, 15 years ago, he was saying that I'm ready anytime. Whenever my time is, I'm ready. So he was never afraid. And I don't know if it makes it any easier, but I am grateful that he wasn't afraid. It's kind of hard to talk about, you know? But he was courageous. And I have a lot of respect for that. You know what else I have a lot of respect for? The fact that he raised 2 boys that were not his own, that he didn't have to do. He was a great father, and I'm so grateful for everything that he did for us, for me. So that's the update. Yeah, there probably hasn't been a new video released in, I would assume, probably a month at this point, since I've been out here for 2 weeks now. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what's going on, where we're at. Tara unfortunately couldn't make it out here. She has very limited time off of work, and we're working with limited budget to make these videos. So I'm out here. My brother went home a handful of days ago. It's been Mom and I in the house. She's holding up fairly well. I'm proud of her. I can't imagine how hard it is for her. It's real hard for me. So, but she's got an epic support system. So thankful for that. They say we finish this hike. Well, that's where we're headed. Still a distance to go. So, as you can imagine, this trip has been pretty surreal. This backdrop, paradise, this island, it just is incredible. The beauty is mind-blowing. And you completely understand why my parents would want to live here. But this being the backdrop for such a sad and tragic point in our lives, it's just so weird. You know, you can look at it several different ways. And I suppose, I don't know, is it better than gloomy, rainy, snowing weather? I don't know. Or like a industrial cityscape? I don't know. It is just kind of strange to be here in a place that would normally be a wonderful vacation spot, and instead be just torn apart emotionally. And you know, being in the first stage of grief, which is denial, has been interesting, because in the back of my mind, you know, I know he's gone, of course, but in the back of my mind, it's almost like I just keep waiting for him to show up so we can have a family vacation, you know? And it's just not gonna happen, obviously, unfortunately. As much as I would love for it to, but that's life, you know? Sometimes we don't get what we want, but it's all about being grateful and thankful for the time we did have with him. 40 years, 41, I'm 41 now, and I've known him since I was, I think, about 3-ish years old when he came into our lives. So 38 years. Very blessed to share that time with him. Let's keep hiking. this is by far the most I've ever shared about my personal life on this channel with you guys. Yeah, I'm adopted. When I was very young, just a handful of months old, my mother decided effectively that she was not capable of raising me. And I fortunately found my way into the care of the Dooley family. Initially with my grandma, Betty Dooley, who was, I'll talk about her more another time, but she was just a stellar human being. And she by and large acted as mom for about the first year or so before her daughter, Penny, my mom, was able to adopt me. And at that time she already had another adopted son, and that's my brother Trevor. And we had our little family of 3. And then Penny met Jim Popov, who would marry her and take my brother and I on as his sons. And with the benefit of hindsight, in retrospect, we were extremely fortunate that he came into our lives. In the hospital, as they had removed the ventilator, you know, there were a lot of tears. We weren't exactly, there wasn't exactly easy things to say, but I just remember looking at my mom and saying, "You picked a good one. Thank you," you know. He did so much for us. Just, it's quite a thing to adopt 2 young boys that aren't yours and, you know, never complained. One of the things that my mom has mentioned is that these last 4 years that they got to spend here on Kauai, they didn't get to have that typical newlywed years where you don't have kids. You know, they had kids from the beginning. And yeah, I'm so thankful that they got to spend these 4 years here together in their favorite place. It's really cool. They finally got to have that alone time together and get to know each other. Mama said she learned so much about him in the last 4 years that she never knew. And that's awesome. Man, this hike is just epic view after epic view. All right, we're just about to the top, and there's a lot of scrambling here at the end, including this. Here we go. All right, end of the trail. We're up on top, Sleeping Giant. Oh, we got a little scramble here. I'm gonna do this one-handed, I guess. Not recommended. Holy cow. I'm gonna put you down. Let's play it safe here, huh? better. Whoo! Man. Oh man, I've been looking at this from my parents' backyard for close to 2 weeks now, thinking, maybe I'll do that hike. I looked it up a couple days ago and went, I could do that hike. And here I am. What a view. Amazing. This is super cool. Totally worth it. This view is absolutely epic, and the edge, yeah, just real close. So be careful up here. Yeah, called Mom, and she was able to use a little telescope that they have in the backyard to see me up here, which is pretty awesome. Got to spend a little time up here. I called Tara. I wish she could be here. And I got to spend about 10 minutes up here just enjoying it. 360-degree views everywhere across a good chunk of the island. But it's time to head back down. Hopefully we don't get rained on, and hopefully it doesn't get dark, because it's going to get dark in about an hour and 15 minutes. So let's head down. Well, that wraps up this trip to Kauai and this video. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I know this is a little bit different from our normal content. I just figured we should let you know what's going on. We really appreciate y'all watching and sticking with us. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, if you could take a moment to subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.